Well, recently I've been making some exciting Roblox Studio tutorials. Today we're going to do something a little different. It's time for a build challenge. What to build, what to build, what to build. Interplanetary futuristic starship, powered by AI. Or we could just build a cannon. How about a cannon?
Yes.
Yeah, let's build a cannon. Alright, so for today's build, we're building a cannon. This is a cannon. Okay, so when you're already doing these build challenges, I guess what the first thing you're supposed to do is you're supposed to set a timer. So let's set the time to 1 hour, and go. Okay, I'll start with building the barrel. Alright, that's what I got for the cannon barrel. I think that looks pretty decent. Some nice shiny metal rings. We got some... I used plaster as a material for the cannon. I know it's not plaster, but I think kind of the look is kind of not too bad. Okay, so the next step is the wheels. All right, so we got the wheels done. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Last piece left to build is a base, and we'll put it all together. And then after that, we'll get some scripts going to make it functional. All right, here's our cannon, looking pretty good. I think I actually like this. Looks nice. I like it. I like it. All right, let's check in on our timer here. Looks like we used 35 minutes doing that. So we got 25 minutes left just to do a little scripting and make it work. Oh my goodness, let's get to work. Before we get on to the scripting, we gotta build a cannonball. So let's make the cannonball first. All right, cannonball is done. Look at that, fits nicely in the barrel. Just perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, so the last thing we need to do before we can start scripting is we need to set up a firing range. So let's go and set up a firing range or get our cannon ready on the range. All right, here's our range. So we got a couple little army guys here to help us with our cannon operations. But there's one thing we're missing. We need a target for our cannon, so we got to build that target before we can get on to the scripting. So let's do that now. All right, target is done. Let's run it and take a look, see how it's looking here. What is going on down here? Guess I'll need to anchor those parts, because that's not so great. Okay, so I fixed up the target. It's looking a little better here. It's kind of holding itself together a little better. Okay, so now we can move on to the scripting. All right, so the first script we're going to work on is a script that's going to fire the cannonball. So I've added a proximity prompt onto one of the parts on the cannon. We have the script on the proximity part. So now let's start scripting that script. All right, so our first script is done. So it's pretty straightforward. This one, we're just grabbing the ball from replicated storage and cloning it. And then giving it some velocity and shooting it out the front of that cannon. Okay, let's give the cannon a try. We'll click on fire here. Ooh, that ball's a little weak. We're going to have to increase the power. All right, we'll try 300 here. I think that'll give us enough juice. All right, fire, and nice! Hit the target. All right, so next thing we gotta do is we gotta add a script to that target so we know when we hit the target, because how do you know you hit it? It doesn't show you that you hit it. So let's do that. All right, just find one of our targets in the Explorer, and we want to open up the model here and find the hit zone, and we're gonna add a script to that hit zone and add our script in here. All right, so we ran out of time, but we're gonna keep on going because we're just almost done. So let's finish things up. All right, we got the script done, and we replaced all the targets that didn't have the script with the ones that had the script. And let's give it a try. Nice, it works. The only problem is we can only shoot straight, so we can only hit the one target. So we're gonna have to change something here. Let's add some scripts to allow us to rotate the cannon either right or left. All right, to allow us to rotate our cannon, we're going to go and find our wheels in the Explorer, and we'll find the most outer part on the wheels. And then we're going to add a click detector to the wheels. And then we'll add a script underneath that click detector. Then we'll add the logic here that will allow us to rotate the cannon. All right, the scripts are done. So we got a click detector on each tire, and we got a script underneath each click detector that rotates the cannon by 1 degree each direction. So all we got to do, let's fire here, hit the center target, nice. Click on the tires, rotate, rotate, fire, nice. Rotate some more, fire, hit the target, rotate back the other way, fire, missed. Fire again, hit. Rotate some more. Fire, nice. So we got it all working, awesome. All right, so I added a few extra things to the cannon here. I've added these little buttons on the back on the support here. So a negative for lowering the power and a positive for increasing the power. And I also added a cannon firing noise. So I'll just demonstrate that here so you guys can see that awesomeness. All right, fire! Ooh. That sounds pretty mighty. Hit the target, but I think we need a little more juice. Let's click the plus button a few times here. Fire again. Ooh, a little bit more power. Come on. There we go. Rotate it. Fire. Let's give it some real power here. Let's rotate it like crazy. Whoa, look at that. Goes right over the target. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap up the video here. Thanks for watching. See that little red little indicator on the screen? I think it says subscribe. That'd be great if you guys could subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna be creating some more tutorials coming up here pretty soon, and we'll be doing some more things like these build videos and stuff in the future. So hopefully subscribe, and hope you can check out our next video. All right, thanks for watching.